Lina kept her chin lifted, even as the wind snapped her coat open and cold rain slid past her collar like fingers. She ran, heels clacking against pavement slick with winter drizzle, bag thudding against her hip, one hand clutched over her blouse to shield the thin fabric from further ruin. The shirt, pale blue, second-hand, ironed to death, was the only formal piece she owned that didn't have a visible stain or missing button. The rain didn't care, neither did the bus that came 7 minutes late, then stalled in traffic. Or the man who'd spilled coffee on her sleeve. She crossed against the light. The building rose ahead like something out of another life, glass and steel and doormen in pressed uniforms. Hollowick Holdings. A name whispered in high places. She didn't know much about it, only that they were hiring admin staff and the salary would cover her mother's next medication and keep Milo in school. She didn't have the luxury of being underqualified, or underdressed, or late. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. Again. She ignored it. She already knew what it would say. Tuition notice, final warning. The school had called last night. And the night before that. Milo had pretended not to hear the phone ring. The receptionist at the security desk glanced up as Lina pushed through the revolving doors, flushed and breathless. Interview? She asked, eyes flicking down to Lina's shoes. Cheap black pumps. Still somehow too tight. Yes. 9:15. Lina Farrow. The woman tapped her tablet without urgency. You're 6 minutes late. Lina opened her mouth, then shut it. Apologies took time. Time was not on her side. She stepped back as a group of executives swept through the lobby in suits that looked like they came with their own insurance policies. She didn't belong here. She knew it, but she needed to. The receptionist nodded toward the lifts. 20th floor, left side. If they've already called the next candidate, that's not on me. Lina nodded. Thank you. She turned toward the elevators, clutching her bag tighter. One hand pressed against her stomach, trying to quiet the familiar nausea of adrenaline and low blood sugar. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. Her phone buzzed again. She looked down this time. Milo. They said I can't come back after next week if we don't pay. It's okay though, I can get a job too. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. No, you'll stay in school. She sent it, then turned off the screen. The elevator pinged. She moved forward, and then chaos broke. A shout. A crash. The sound of someone gasping. Lina spun around. A woman was collapsing near the front entrance, gracefully at first, like she meant to kneel, then all at once, like her bones had given up. She was elegant, older, high-necked coat, white hair twisted into something severe, an aura that made people pause. Everyone did pause. No one moved. A man dropped his coffee. Someone said, "Is she fainting?" Another, "Should we call someone?" Lina was already running. The woman had fallen sideways, half onto the marble, half against a brass-framed bench by the entryway. Her eyes were closed, jaw slack, but she was breathing. Shallow, uneven. No one moved closer. The doorman stood rooted, hand halfway to his earpiece. Two suited men backed up, as if illness were contagious through air. Lina dropped her bag without hesitation. "Ma'am," she said, kneeling fast beside the woman, voice steady. "Can you hear me?" The woman didn't respond. Lina pressed 2 fingers gently to the side of her neck. The pulse was there. Faint. Irregular. "Call an ambulance," she snapped, looking up at the nearest man, who flinched. We already did," he stammered. "Good. Has she had a heart condition before?" Blank looks. No one knew. Lina turned back, focused. The woman's skin was pale. A faint gray-blue beneath her cheekbones. Not fainting. Worse. She looked up again. "Someone give me a coat. Something warm." Silence. "I said a coat," she bit out, sharper now. A younger intern-looking woman peeled off her trench coat and passed it over with shaking hands. Lina folded it quickly, gently lifting the woman's head to rest on it, careful not to move her neck too much. "Ma'am, my name is Lina. Can you squeeze my hand?" Still nothing. But her lips moved. A flicker. The security guard approached finally. "Paramedics are 3 minutes out." Lina didn't look up. "Tell them it's likely cardiac. Irregular rhythm. Possible syncope. No visible trauma." He blinked at her. "You a nurse?" "No," she said, "but I know what I'm doing." A low, rasping sound came from the woman's throat. A wheeze. Lina moved closer. She took off her scarf, cheap wool, and rolled it to tuck gently beneath the woman's neck for support. She kept her voice low. "You're all right. You're not alone. Help's coming." The woman's eyes opened for a split second, clouded and confused, but focused on her. Cameras had started to appear, phones lifted by bystanders trying to get a photo of the moment someone powerful fell. Lina twisted, raising her hand sharply. "No photos." Show some respect. That worked. Shame was louder than authority sometimes. The doors burst open a minute later. 2 paramedics ran in with gear. Lina stood quickly but didn't back away. Cardiac irregularity. Pulse steady. Breathing shallow, she told them, voice clear. Collapsed about 3 minutes ago. No trauma from the fall. Her name, she paused. I don't know. They nodded, already working. The older paramedic glanced at her. You the one who stabilized her? Lina nodded once. Good instincts, he said, then turned back to his partner. Get vitals. Stabilize before we move. As they loaded the woman onto a stretcher, a hand reached out blindly, fingers twitching. Lina hesitated, then stepped closer and took it. I'll go with her, she said quietly. The medic frowned. Are you family? No, Lina said, but she asked for me. Sort of. It was enough. They didn't argue. As the doors closed behind her and the sirens cut through the city noise, Lina realized 2 things. She had no idea who the woman was. And she'd left her interview behind like it didn't matter at all. The older woman, still unnamed, still unreadable, murmured something soft, unintelligible. Lina leaned in. You're okay. You fainted. We're on our way to the hospital now. The woman's fingers twitched against the blanket. Her nails were manicured, but not fresh. Her hands had the faint tremble of someone who didn't take weakness lightly. Don't speak, Lina murmured, instinctively adjusting the scarf under her neck again. Just breathe. That's all you need to do right now. The woman's eyes fluttered half open, cloudy with something more than pain. Confusion, fear, pride. A sound rasped out. Are you? Lina leaned closer. Lina, my name's Lina. The woman blinked. Recognition wasn't there, not really, but her grip tightened faintly. As if she decided that was enough to trust. Lina looked up. Does anyone know who she is yet? She asked the paramedic nearest her. He gave her a sideways glance. The dispatch team did. We got a call from higher up. Said to keep press out of the herb. She's Margaret Hale. The name hit with a low, dull thud. Hale, as in Hollowick Holdings, as in the building she'd just left. The family name etched into half the skyline. Lina didn't say anything, but her pulse thudded once, hard. The man continued, not noticing her reaction. Media's circling already. Apparently this'll hit the wires in 20 minutes or less. Lina nodded slowly. She looked back down at the woman, Margaret, who had closed her eyes again but hadn't let go of her hand. There would be cameras, reporters, security scrambling. Margaret Hale, collapsing in public? That would be worth headlines. Lina shifted in her seat, positioning her body to shield the stretcher. Her scarf slipped slightly. She adjusted it again, not for warmth, but for modesty. For dignity. No photos. No headlines with her looking like this. You'll be okay, she said again, more to herself this time. The ambulance pulled into the emergency bay. As the doors opened, cameras flashed from behind the hospital glass. Lina didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, blocking the woman's face with her body as the stretcher rolled out. She didn't speak to the press. Didn't look at them. She stayed beside Margaret until hospital staff took over. Until the woman's hand finally slipped from hers. And still, she didn't leave. Not yet. The air smelled like bleach and overwork. Lina stood just outside the curtained area, fingers curled around the strap of her bag, scarf forgotten in her hands. No one had asked who she was yet. That would come soon. She didn't belong here, and she knew it. But she hadn't left. A nurse paused near her, giving her a quick once-over. You came with the patient? Lina nodded. I was with her when she collapsed. I helped stabilize her before the medics arrived. The nurse softened a fraction. She was asking for someone. Not by name. Just said, the girl. The one who helped me. I can stay, Lina said quickly, then corrected herself. I mean, if she needs someone. I don't want to get in the way. The nurse studied her for a second longer, then nodded. We'll let you know. Lina sat down in the plastic chair by the wall, scarf still balled in her hands. It was damp now. Useless. She folded it anyway. Her phone buzzed in her bag again. She didn't check it. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. She was about to rise, quietly, unnoticed, when the nurse reappeared. "She's awake. And asking for you." Lina blinked. "She doesn't know me." The nurse gave her a small, private look. "That doesn't seem to matter." She was led to a room at the far end of the wing, discreet, quiet, guarded. Margaret lay against a stack of white pillows, oxygen line beneath her nose, makeup faded into pale edges. Her hair had been loosened slightly. Someone had clipped a monitor to her finger. She looked older, but still composed. Lina hovered at the door. "You don't have to say anything," she said gently. "I just wanted to make sure you were all right." Margaret's gaze lifted. Sharper now. Clearer. "You're the girl with the scarf." Lina nodded once. "Lina." Margaret repeated the name like she was filing it away for future use. "You stayed." "Yes." "Why?" Lina hesitated. "You looked alone." Margaret studied her. "Do you know who I am?" "I didn't when I helped you." "And now?" Lina's voice didn't waver. "I still would have done the same." That made Margaret pause. Not smile, not soften, but pause. "I believe you," she said finally. "You have calm hands." Lina blinked. Margaret closed her eyes again. "They matter, calm hands." In a storm, silence stretched between them. Then Margaret added, quietly, without opening her eyes. "Don't leave just yet." Margaret slept, or rested with her eyes closed. Lina couldn't quite tell. Either way, she didn't move again, and Lina didn't try to speak. Outside the room, a different nurse was typing on a tablet near the door. She looked up as Lina approached. "She's stable?" Lina asked, voice hushed. The nurse nodded. "For now. She's lucky you were there." Lina gave a faint smile. "I didn't do much." "That's not what she says." Lina blinked. "She's still asking for me?" "Not by name," the nurse said. "But yes. She keeps saying, the girl with the scarf." That stopped Lina in her tracks. "She'll be okay," the nurse added. "You don't have to stay." Lina nodded slowly. She already felt the invisible wall returning. The shift that happened once emergencies were over, when people returned to roles and status and space. She wasn't family. She wasn't important. She was the girl who helped. That was enough. She walked down the hallway quietly, pulling her coat tight again. The hospital's warmth vanished behind the automatic doors, replaced by cold air and a sun trying its best to break through cloud cover. The city was moving again. Back to its schedule. She pulled out her phone. 7 missed calls. 1 voicemail. A new text from the clinic about her mother's prescription needing renewal. And an automated email in her inbox. "Thank you for applying. We regret to inform you." Lina exhaled, long and slow. The kind of breath that didn't fix anything. She started walking again. Slowly this time. No umbrella. Shoes ruined. Blouse wrinkled beyond saving. Somewhere behind her, a woman she didn't know was still murmuring her name. But Lina was already gone. By the time Lina reached the Hollowick Tower again, the rain had turned from drizzle to a steady, soaking sheet. Her coat was drenched. The curls behind her ears clung to her neck. She tried to smooth them back as she stepped inside the lobby, but her fingers caught on a damp thread in her sleeve. The receptionist barely looked up this time. "I had a 9:15, Lina said softly, trying not to drip on the marble. The woman blinked, then frowned as she tapped something on her screen. "Pharaoh, was it?" "Yes." She scanned the screen again, then gave a bland smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They've already moved on. You were marked as a no-show." Lina paused. There was no point explaining. "I understand. Would you like us to keep your application on file?" Lina shook her head once. "No, thank you." She walked back out into the rain without waiting for the glass doors to fully open. The city swallowed her up instantly, horns and footsteps, wet umbrellas, people moving too quickly to notice a girl walking the other way. She didn't cry. There was no drama in it. Just a quiet kind of ache. A cold that reached the ribs. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. She pulled it out with stiff fingers. The letter arrived by hand. Not post. Not courier. A man in a charcoal suit delivered it directly to her apartment building's front desk and waited until the manager called her unit. He didn't give his name. Just said, "It's from Mrs. Hale." Lina stared at the envelope on her kitchen table for a full minute before touching it. Cream-colored, thick, and crisp around the edges. Her name was handwritten in a firm, elegant hand. Miss Lina Pharaoh. Personal and confidential. Her fingers smudged the ink as she opened it. Inside was a single card, embossed with the Hale family crest at the top. "Mrs. Margaret Hale requests your presence at Hollowick Estate. Thursday, 3 p.m. Car will be provided. No explanation. No thank you. No indication of what this was. Just a place, a time, and a decision. Lina turned the card over. Blank. 2 days ago, she'd held that woman's hand in an ambulance and thought it meant nothing. Now she was being summoned like what? A witness? A debt owed? Her stomach turned, unsure whether it was nerves or hunger. The car came exactly on time. Black. Shiny enough to reflect her hesitation in the window. The driver didn't ask her name. Just opened the back door and nodded. She sat stiffly, palms pressed flat against her thighs, and didn't speak the whole ride. Hollowick Estate was the kind of place people whispered about. Not a house, a property. Wrought iron gates. A drive lined with old trees. Windows like eyes, watching you arrive. When the car stopped, the front door opened before she reached the steps. A woman stood waiting. Late 50s, steel gray hair pulled back into a practical bun, a cardigan over a crisp blouse. Not a butler, not a maid, not quite formal, but clearly someone who belonged here. You must be Miss Farrow, the woman said, with a warm, worn-out kind of voice. I'm Marta. Lina gave a polite nod. Hello. She's in the sunroom. I'll take you through. The estate was quiet, not cold, but so perfectly arranged it made Lina hyper-aware of every footstep. She tried not to look too long at the art on the walls or the piano she passed. She didn't belong here, and this house knew it. Marta glanced back at her as they walked. You're smaller than I expected. Lina blinked. Sorry? Nothing, Marta said. Just. She's been asking for you like you were someone carved out of steel. Lina didn't know what to say to that. They stopped outside a glass-walled room filled with pale winter light. Margaret Hale sat in an armchair by a low table, a teacup in one hand, dressed in slate gray cashmere and slippers that still somehow looked expensive. She looked up as Lina entered. Cool. Alert. Miss Farrow, she said. Mrs. Hale, you came. I wasn't sure I should. Margaret tilted her head slightly. But you did. That tells me you're curious. Lina's voice stayed even. I thought maybe you wanted to say thank you. Margaret gestured to the other chair. I don't offer gratitude, Miss Farrow. I offer opportunity. Lina sat cautiously on the edge of the upholstered chair. It was softer than it looked. Everything in the room was quiet wealth, nothing ostentatious, but curated down to the way the afternoon sun filtered through linen drapes. Even the tea tray was minimalist, 2 porcelain cups, no sugar, no unnecessary comfort. Margaret poured without asking how she took it. Do you drink tea? Yes, Lina said quietly. Good. I don't trust people who need it sweetened. The older woman set the cup before her, then settled back in her own chair. I'll speak plainly, Miss Farrow. You didn't just help me in a moment of weakness. You protected me, physically, publicly, and without hesitation. That's not nothing in my world. Lina nodded once. I didn't expect anything in return. I know. That's why I'm offering something. Lina's fingers tightened around the cup. Margaret continued, calm and exact. My son, Adrian, is set to assume full control of Hollowick Holdings by the end of this quarter. My health situation, her tone made it clear she would not elaborate, has accelerated some of our internal decisions. There are optics involved, traditions, shareholder expectations. His position will solidify faster if he is married. Lina frowned. You want me to pretend to be his fiancé? No, Margaret said. I want you to be his wife. Lina stared at her. I don't understand. It's very simple, Margaret said, lifting her cup. You need stability. My son needs a wife who doesn't care about wealth, doesn't need constant praise, and won't humiliate him publicly. You've already proven yourself in all 3 categories. Lina's voice was low. This is absurd. No, Margaret replied. It's sufficient. Silence settled between them like a third presence in the room. Margaret set her cup down with a soft clink. I'm not offering marriage in the emotional sense. I'm offering terms. You'll have your own room. Complete privacy. A generous monthly stipend. Your family's debts, gone. Your mother's care, covered. Your siblings' schooling, secured. You'll be under no obligation to earn affection. In fact, I would advise against it. Lina's chest tightened. And what do you expect in return? Loyalty, Margaret said. Discretion. And silence. She reached down beside her chair, opened a leather folder, and passed it across the table. The contract inside was 5 pages. Marriage duration. Minimum 3 years. Public appearances. Optional, but encouraged. Romantic involvement. Not required. Preferably no complications. Termination clause. Mutual agreement or breach of discretion. Compensation. Itemized, generous, final. Lina's hands remained in her lap. You don't have to sign today, Margaret said. But I'm not the kind of woman who offers things twice. The door behind them opened. Lina didn't turn. She felt the change in the air before she saw him. And when she finally looked up, everything in the room shifted. He was tall, clean-cut, sharp-featured, dressed in black, like the kind of man whose whole life had been fitted to him by tailors, advisors, and bloodline. He didn't glance at Lina. Not once. He addressed his mother. Is this the candidate? Yes, Margaret said. This is Miss Farrow. His eyes finally moved to her. Cool. Disinterested. She'll sign a prenup, of course. He didn't wait for her response. He just walked past them and poured himself a drink. And in that moment, Lina made no sound. But something inside her settled into steel. The drink poured in perfect silence. He moved with the kind of effortless self-possession that didn't invite small talk. He leaned against the sideboard and sipped once before speaking again. She looks younger than I expected. Still not looking at her. Lina's jaw tensed. Margaret didn't flinch. She's 25, old enough to know what she's doing. Young enough to start over if this proves unbearable. Adrian finally turned his gaze toward Lina then. Not a smile, not even politeness, just assessment. Have you read the contract? He asked. Lina nodded. Any questions? She hesitated. You didn't ask if I've agreed. He arched a brow. You're here. Her heart kicked once behind her ribs. Quietly. I came because your mother requested it. Adrian set his glass down. And you don't think that implies consent? Lina held his gaze. Consent implies choice. That landed, just slightly. The smallest pause. Margaret spoke then, crisp and cool. Adrian, your position does not give you license to interrogate. You don't have to like the arrangement. You simply have to respect it. I do respect it, he said. Which is why I expect her to sign the prenup before anything else. Lina stayed silent. She could have said a dozen things. But she didn't, because it didn't matter. She wasn't here to be liked. Or even believed. Adrian left the room without ceremony. The echo of his footsteps faded down the corridor, sharp and final. Lina stayed seated. Margaret didn't speak. She folded her hands in her lap and waited. This isn't normal, she said finally. No, Margaret agreed. It's not. It feels like a transaction. It is. Lina looked up. Margaret didn't flinch. I know what you're thinking, she said calmly. That you're selling yourself. That I'm trying to buy your silence, your dignity, your name. I wasn't going to say that. But you thought it. Lina didn't deny it. Margaret continued. You're wrong, by the way. I don't need to buy your dignity. You've already proven you have more of it than most women I've met. Lina looked away. Her voice was quieter now. You don't know me. I know enough. Margaret leaned forward, resting her elbows lightly on her knees. Her expression didn't soften, but it turned deliberate. I've built an empire from nothing, she said. I've seen men crumble under less pressure than you're under right now. You walked into a hospital alone. You walked away without asking for thanks. And then you showed up here, on time, knowing this might all be a game. That tells me you don't beg. No, Lina said. I don't. Then take the offer, Margaret said. And never have to again. The room felt too still. Like the moment before a wire snapped. I'm not interested in being a wife in name only, Lina said. Or in being forgotten in some hallway while your son takes models to charity galas. Margaret gave the faintest shrug. Then don't be. That's not an answer. No, Margaret said. It's an opening. Lina stared at her. You'll be invisible if you choose to be, Margaret added. But you'll also be safe. Fed. Paid. Free. The word hit harder than any number on a check. Free. Lina stood abruptly. I need time, she said. Margaret didn't rise. You have 48 hours. I thought you don't offer things twice. I don't, Margaret said. But this was already offered once, 2 days ago. In an ambulance. When you held my hand. Lina blinked. That wasn't an offer. No, Margaret said. That was loyalty. I'm simply matching it. The front door stuck. Lina shoved her shoulder into it gently, and it groaned open like a warning. Inside, the apartment was dark. A single lamp glowed in the corner, casting long shadows over the peeling walls and the second-hand furniture patched together with care. She smelled burned rice. The kettle had boiled dry. Milo's voice drifted from the back room, low and urgent. You're not supposed to get stressed, okay? Just sit. I'll fix it. Lina's on her way. Lina stepped into the kitchen. Her bag hit the floor. Fix what? Milo turned. He was 16 and too thin, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big and worry like it was stitched into his shoulders. She fainted again. Lina moved fast, brushing past him into the living room. Her mother sat hunched on the sofa, breathing shallowly. Color gone from her face. One hand trembled faintly on her knee. Mum, Lina whispered, crouching in front of her. What happened? I just stood up too fast, her mother murmured. Nothing dramatic. Lina looked at Milo. He shook his head. She skipped lunch. Again. Lina reached for her mother's hand. It was cold. Did you take your meds today? No answer. Her voice softened. Mum, I was going to, her mother said, avoiding her eyes. I just needed a few more days. The clinic said, you didn't fill the prescription? I didn't want you to worry. Lina closed her eyes. It was the kind of heartbreak you didn't cry about anymore. Just carried. Milo hovered in the doorway. I almost punched someone at school. Lina turned. He shrugged. Some kid said Anna's shoes smell like bins. And that we're the charity siblings. Did you hit him? Almost. Lina nodded. Thanks for stopping at almost. He kicked the doorframe. We need help, Lina. You can't keep doing all of it. Her mother started to protest, but Lina cut in quietly. It's fine. It wasn't. But she said it anyway. She stood and went into the kitchen, grabbed her notebook, flipped to the back pages. Utilities. Past due. Mum's meds. Skipped. Anna's shoes. Falling apart. Milo's tuition. Urgent. One income. No safety net. No miracles coming. Except there was an offer sitting in her coat pocket. 5 pages long. And a ring waiting in someone else's drawer. Lina pressed a hand to her chest. It didn't feel like selling herself. It felt like finally having a choice. The pen hovered over the signature line. Lina stared at her name typed neatly below it. Lina Farrow. Bride. Non-negotiable. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Margaret Hale's study. Everything smelled like old wood and power. The room was too quiet. No clocks ticked. No birds sang. Just the sound of her breath, and the weight of what she was about to become. Marta stood quietly near the bookshelf, eyes lowered, hands clasped. Not offering comfort, not judging either, just there. Margaret sat behind the desk, spine straight, hands folded. Nothing will change until you sign, she said. Lina didn't move. Once you do, the protections begin immediately. Your family's debts, medical access, school payments, all handled. You can get the job you were applying for, if you still want it. I know. Margaret tilted her head. Is it fear or pride that's holding the pen back? Both, Lina said honestly. Margaret didn't smile, but there was a flicker of something. Respect, maybe. You're not the first woman to marry for survival, Miss Farrow. You just have more clarity about it than most. Lina exhaled. Then she signed. The ink bled slightly under her grip, her hands colder than she realized. Her signature looked too formal, too neat. Like it belonged to someone else. She set the pen down without ceremony. It was done. Margaret slid a box across the desk. Small, square, velvet. Lina didn't open it. She didn't ask what the ring looked like. She didn't ask anything. Margaret said, almost gently, you've already proven your loyalty. He'll learn that. Eventually. If you're holding your breath, wondering what being married to billionaire son Adrian will be like, read the full story. The Wife He Learned to Love Too Late, for free right now at amplereads.com. The link's in the comments below.